From day one, Woodward has demanded of his team a level of discipline never asked of an England side before.
We just have a set of rules which are laid down by the coaches and the players, and they're something that we've all thought up together, and we're all very happy with.
It was Black Book, yeah. And you know, to be honest, most of the players didn't have to read that because they know what's expected of them. But it's there in black and white. You know, if there's ever a problem, you know, it's there in black and white for you.
The biggest thing, the rules are put in by the players. So what happens, for example, just think of any topic, think of punctuality. What we've done is I asked the players to go away and discuss punctuality, not me. I'm not in the room. They came back with, okay, our rules on punctuality are this. Punctuality is 10 minutes early. So if I call a meeting at 10 o'clock, their rules, not my rules, their rules of the team, they'll be there at 10 to 10, sitting down ready to go. Simple things like how are they going to write their books? How are they going to handle the press? So they discuss it, I sign it off, and that's what's happened. So when you see how they operate, you know, I can't recall anyone ever being late for a meeting.
The fixation with timekeeping goes beyond politeness. For Woodward, it's the difference between victory and defeat.
If a player did come late, I wouldn't say you're late. I'd say you've just cost us the World Cup. You just cost the World Cup. You're not setting standards that allow us to become the best team in the world.
Can I just say, I just think at the moment we're exactly where we wanted to be. Exactly where we wanted to be. Played 3-1 through. That's all we had to do. Clearly there are areas that need tweaking, but I believe it's just tweaking one or two things, no more than that.
Woodward was hauled before an IRB court.
When you talk about pressure and, you know, making the wrong calls, that was the wrong call by me, which I regret. What was the right call by me is having a QC down there, because when we went down to Sydney, this was a serious situation, and I've never been so nervous in my life almost, because it's like a courtroom. You had prosecution, you know, defence, you know, and a judge making the call, and they had the ability to take points off us, which could have, you know, cost us the World Cup. And my heart was going big time.
His pre-tournament insistence for a QC in the squad was his get-out-of-jail-free card.
Richard Smith was absolutely incredible. You know, he was awesome.
They could have been deducted points and forced to meet the All Blacks in their next match.
And we got a £10,000 fine. So that was it. So we left very happy. It'll never happen again. And I learned a huge lesson that day. That everything was leaning on Wilkinson. That suddenly England hadn't played that well because of Johnny Wilkinson. So I just made this massive point to the team that also when they were reading the stuff in the press about Johnny not playing well, it was all hogwash. He'd played fantastically well. A lot of the other players hadn't risen to the occasion.
The way Johnny played out there was awesome. And I'll tell you that, we watched his performance yesterday. Defensively, if he hadn't played, forget the goal kicks, if he hadn't played defensively, we would have lost the game. Because he's running around, his enthusiasm is above anybody else's in the team, and in defence especially. So I just want to say that publicly, so I thought it was awesome for the weekend. I think it's the rest of the team that could actually understand what's going on here.
He's an extraordinary player, but you could just see what was going to happen with the media. They were determined to kind of burst his bubble, and he was awesome in that World Cup, absolutely brilliant. The pressure on that guy is immense to deliver. And he could just have that one-off day and miss every kick at goal. It can happen even to Johnny Wilkinson. You know, he would never live with himself.
You set your own expectations so high that the majority of the pressure, or the pressure that you put on yourself, far outweighs that comes in from anywhere else. So really, you know what you're fighting against. You're kind of fighting against your own, like I said before, your own goals, your own values, and your own peace of mind.
He's the world's best player. So who is anyone, especially even me, as his coach, to say we're doing it wrong? I think he is the world's best player. Not his goal kicking, the way he conducts himself on and off the field. Everything he does, he steps up the mark and wants to improve, improve, improve.
At the end of a kicking session, if you're 2 minutes away from finishing, and those 2 minutes, you're not happy with those 2 minutes, and those 2 minutes then turn into another hour and a half, and you end up missing appointments, you miss wherever you're supposed to be, or you put things off, or you phone up and cancel things, and you go and do another hour and a half or whatever. That might seem obsessive to some people, but to others that gives you the right and the peace of mind to sit there in the evening and relax, and if there's any evening left, you know, and watch the telly and actually have a clear mind, you know, and sleep well that night. If I don't kick well, then I'm so anxious I end up waking up early anyway and go and doing that extra hour and a half, at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning anyway.
That's what he is. He's totally obsessive about being the #1 person in the world in his game. But that's what I should imagine if you know Tiger Woods, any of these guys. They'd all be the same. They'd be the same animals.
Singling out one player for such praise could demoralise a normal team. But Wilkinson epitomises what England have become. Early French try belied England's mastery of the conditions and their opponents. This pressure brought out an inner steel that goes by the coyest acronym imaginable: teacup.
Teacup, which is a very English word, which I'm very proud of. And what is T-cup? And it's thinking correctly under pressure. And the best players, the real winners, are those who think correctly.
Even though you might be feeling nervous and you see your shirt moving, as your heart's beating, you understand that it's okay to feel nervous. And people say you can shut out the noise of the crowd, but I mean, it's rubbish. You can hear the crowd all the time. You just understand that doesn't have to matter if you don't want it to.
Too many surprises on there in terms of what we've been thinking. Again, I've just got to reiterate, you fellas down here, it's not easy. I know how you're feeling, and all I want to just reiterate to you is absolutely critical to the team that you still prepare yourself properly. Anything can happen.
I've always almost dreamed about this, funny enough. I thought, one of the things I'd love to do was to be announced a World Cup final 15, and that's what happened. But in the real world, you see, you've got 15 people on the ceiling. Wow, this is it. We've worked all our lives for this. You've got another 7 people, the bench, who are not quite on the ceiling, but at least they're involved. They're going to be there. They're going to probably take a part of it. But in terms of the World Cup, you've then got 8 players who are on the floor. I've just given the worst news of probably their lives in that one moment. How that team reacts then, that moment, can cost you the World Cup one way or the other. You can lose the World Cup on that one moment.
This World Cup is over on Monday. Can't do anything better than spending 24 hours on a plane, trying back to England with that cup. And it'll be won or lost by the 30 players. And how you fellas there react now.
The real heroes were the 8 guys not involved. The way they train that week, your people like Abbott and your Shaws and these guys were just fantastic. They were never late for a meeting. They were dressed in absolutely the right kit. They took full part in the training. There wasn't a single not a single player has ever questioned that decision to me. That is all down to teamship rules, because they don't want to let the team down. Now they're gutted. I know how they feel because I'm a player. I know how I would have felt. That is how strong it is, and that's something I'm very, very proud of, and in a way more proud of those 8 players than the actual 15 who played.
Body language is how we communicate personality, charisma, and influence with our nonverbal. Anyone who's interacting with people on a regular basis, so photographers, entrepreneurs, if you're going on dates, you're pitching yourself, body language is hugely important. Think of working with a client if you're a photographer. You can actually cater your body language to work with the client to make them feel confident and calm, and then put them in the correct body language so you get the perfect shot. I like to call myself a recovering awkward person. I found body language and it actually taught me how to be confident. So I started studying people, body language, and I've been doing that for 12 years. And now I share that research with people so I can show them how they can use confident body language. First, we start with teaching you how you can master your own nonverbal communication. And then I'm going to give a step-by-step guide on how to read other people's hidden nonverbal cues. So that's hidden emotions, lies, deception, and then how to make that interaction really smooth. When I do a 3-day workshop, I tell people after the first day, you're going to notice a difference. After the second day, other people are going to notice a difference. And after the third day, you're going to have a completely new way of interacting with people.
He has tons, by the way. He's passionate about the safe development of artificial intelligence. Politically, he's a libertarian. He also thinks that unless you go to a top school, college may not be worth it.
Your diploma's a dunce hat in disguise.
That's why he offers tech prodigies $100,000 to drop out and launch a startup instead.
That you've identified that as the way that you live. I always tell people, you get what you tolerate. And so you've gotten used to tolerating that, and you start thinking, this is me, when all it is a habit. It's a habit of the way of looking at life. It's a habit of how you use your body. It's a habit of language that you use. Because certain words, when you use them, you become that. I really believe what you've got to do is train yourself. Train yourself physically. It's like working out. You know, people say, don't you have bad days? Of course I get pissed off, I get frustrated, I feel sad, I do all those things, but I don't stay there. I used to live there. I used to be depressed all the time. I never get depressed now because, not because I'm so positive, it's not fake, it's like a muscle. You know, you can train yourself to get frustrated by doing it all the time. You can train yourself to be stressed out. You can train yourself to feel sad by doing it so often. We get wired. The more we do something, the more wired we get. You can train yourself to feel passionate. You can train yourself to feel strong. And I tell people, don't settle. Remember, you get what you tolerate. Put yourself in gear. Go for a workout. Start to train your body and your mind. And also find something you want to serve greater than yourself. Because if you're just doing this for you, you're going to probably have bad days. But if you're doing it for your family, if you're doing it for your community, if you're doing it for humanity, motive does matter. If your motive's just for yourself, you don't get much insight. Life supports you because you're part of life. But if you're trying to support more than yourself, when you get a vision, that's how businesses grow. That's how movements happen, right? Find something big in yourself to serve and make sure that you don't tolerate weakness in yourself. That doesn't mean you're not to feel sad, but you're not just going to stay there because you made that decision. Birthright. I did it with people that all started with nothing. And I began to see there's common patterns. And once you know what those patterns are, I don't care if you're young or old. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what country you're from. If you understand the science of building wealth, you can have abundance financially. If you violate those rules, either because you're ignorant to them or because you just don't apply them, you're going to have financial stress. There's a science to the body. Everyone here is biochemically different, but there's certain fundamental rules, laws, that if you violate them, you're going to have a lack of energy. If you really violate them, you're going to have dis-ease in the body. That's what it means, dis-ease. It comes from violating those rules. If you align with the rules of achievement around the body, you'll have an abundance of energy. You'll feel strong. You'll have an extraordinary body and the extraordinary energy that comes with it. So, science of achievement is something most of you are quite obsessed by, or you wouldn't get to a room like this. But there's a second master skill to have an extraordinary life, and that second skill is the art of fulfillment. When I talk about the art of fulfillment, what I explain to people always is, I didn't say science of fulfillment. Why not? Because it's different for everyone, just like art. What one person thinks is beautiful, somebody else might think is ugly. So if you want to know what's beautiful, as many people there are on earth, it's an art because everyone has a different view. If you want to know what God loves, go to the forest and see it. It's called massive diversity. It isn't a science. It's an art. But that art, unmastered, will create an ugly life. An ugly life. And the phrase I use most often that I hope you've heard me say and you take it in once again, maybe deeper, is success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. But if we don't physically make a decision how we're going to live, then we'll show up like everybody else because the human mind is not going to make you happy. This brain of yours won't do it. You have to direct it. And there's no worse fate than to achieve everything and not be fulfilled. How many have had the days where you achieved this huge goal and your brain always wanted it and you got it and then your brain went, is this all there is? Who's been there? It's the worst experience. It's worse than failing, isn't it? Because most of you are achievers, so if you just look at it as a little bump on the road, I'll try something, what? But when you succeed and you fail, when you succeed and you're not fulfilled,
it's almost tempting to be paralyzed by such a monstrously hateful act, to despair and say, well, it's the way the world is now. Well, I don't know what to do, but I do know that despair is a victory for hate. Hate wants us to be too weak to change anything.
Obvious, and everyone knows it's the right way to do business, but yet business is business, and things get complicated, and that's where a lot of companies stumble. And Steve was just incredibly good because he could do things by the sheer force of will and keep people in line and keep people focused.
Meaning what? He would shut down projects that he thought were extemporaneous. He would focus on things that he thought were the next big thing.
Yeah, you could look at when he returned to Apple, he not only killed most of the product line, they were making over 20 things at the time, and he cut it down to 4.
And most people thought he was crazy for that.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that internally, Apple had dozens of projects going on, and he killed all of those. So there were a lot of people running around Apple at that time, worried about their jobs, for one thing. And you know, it was all part of giving everybody the focus. So everyone at Apple would know what the company stood for, and every customer would know what Apple stands for.
Right. And sex starts to go away, or interest in sex with somebody else starts to increase. And so this creates a dynamic tension in the relationship. And most importantly, to know that when you first fall in love, the brain chemicals and hormones that get produced are the same hormones if you were taking cocaine. So it literally is like a drug high, but in a sense, it's God's gift. It's a glimpse of what you can create together. But after a few years, you don't get those automatic brain chemicals because what stimulates them is the newness and the challenge. When newness goes away and challenge goes away, suddenly your dopamine levels begin to drop a bit. And so that's the passion brain chemical. And then there's the brain chemical serotonin, which is the optimistic brain chemical, where you're full of hope and, oh, look how wonderful they are. And when serotonin levels are up, you always find your partner more attractive, and you tend to be more flexible and accepting of limitations. You don't even see them as limitations. You see it as kind of cute. But after a while, when history sets in, so length of relationship decreases serotonin, the automatic free serotonin you get when a relationship is new, because you have no history. The first time they're late, you go, oh, next time they won't be late. But when it's 30 times down the line, your brain remembers that, and that inhibits the production of serotonin. So there's kind of an artificial high at the beginning of a relationship, but it's truly what we can accomplish. Now, I've been married 28 years, and we have never been happier. And our sex life is fantastic, and I have more sex today than I had when I was 35 and I married my wife here at 62 years old. Nice. Yeah, but it takes work. And it doesn't have to be challenging work, meaning you struggle. It's just good work. It's like I'm always working. I love my work, and I love the work I do in my relationship. And I have off time, too. I have vacation time. So it doesn't have to be a struggle for people. But we have to work smart. We have to understand each other. And one of the first obstacles is couples, the first few years, it's so automatic. Then when that goes away, they think, oh, I've lost it. As opposed to realizing I didn't develop the skills to stimulate dopamine, to stimulate serotonin, as well as take the right nutrition to provide the foundation for it. So in America, we have 1 out of 5 women are on antidepressants. I mean, who knew that? And most people don't know in the workplace, women's stress levels are twice as high as men's. And when they come home, their stress levels on average, and this is not just America, it's also Europe, on average, they're 4 times higher than men's. What's happening to women today, which is why I wrote the most recent book, which is Work With Me, is helping women understand why the work world is more stressful for them. It all has to do with an understanding of our hormones. When you're in a relationship and you feel romance and like in sex, if you have foreplay, you have great orgasm, right? If you have foreplay, you have time, you feel relaxed, the environment is beautiful, you have fantastic orgasm. That's produced by a hormone called oxytocin. Now, women tend to run out of oxytocin very quickly. And when you're in the workplace, testosterone inhibits the production of oxytocin. So anytime you feel like you're in a hurry or a deadline and you're being challenged and you're doing something you don't really love to do, testosterone gets produced. Testosterone helps lower stress for men, but testosterone inhibits oxytocin for women. This doesn't mean that women can't be doing those tough jobs. It just means that women have to make sure they find balance in their life, doing the types of behaviors that stimulate oxytocin, which is why when it comes to relationship, and men are from Mars and women are from Venus, one of the great gifts of it is teaching women how to communicate to men so men will listen, and teaching men the importance of listening to a woman. Because when a woman feels seen and heard and validated for who she is, no judgment on his part, then suddenly her oxytocin levels go up. So we can find a balance in this new paradigm of relationships where men and women are both working side by side, and in the home we're interacting more side by side, but we have to be careful. Our brains, our hormones are not the same. We have different needs, different priorities, and the man who can be aware of that can provide so much support for the woman in his life, and the woman who's aware that men are just not trained to provide this kind of support, then suddenly a woman can shift a few things, help him be successful in helping her feel better. And that's the message that I have. So much of the time is let's not worry about men, let's worry more about women since today their stress levels are much higher. What can a woman do to stop doing things for him and instead create an opportunity for him to be successful in doing things for her? And that's a shift in our thinking.
And related to the food portion, is there some particular ingredients you're saying? Or?
Oh, absolutely. So first thing we have to know is that much of our food products today have soy in them. And soy dramatically interferes with the absorption of nutrients in your body and the production of brain chemicals. Soy produces estrogen in the body. The estrogen then suppresses testosterone in men. So men gradually lose their libido. And so we have to fight that. We have to learn new ways to kick that out of your body. Now, on my website, I recommend certain Chinese herbs, also dietary things. There's lots of cruciferous vegetables, occasionally going on a cleanse. You know, I go on a cleanse like this year, a 30-day cleanse. So I come back to feeling my abs. I feel strong. My testosterone levels are 25% higher than what they were when I was a young man. But what we want to do is actually get to the cause of the problem, which is too much of these xenoestrogens in the body and helping to kick them out. Otherwise, the progesterone levels start dropping more and more. So there's, you know, a lot of dynamics here, which is cleansing is one of the ways to find hormonal balance. But there's also a lack of knowledge of simple supplements that have a huge impact. And that's what I focus on in my website, is those things that are kind of under the radar. I'll give you one example. Lithium. Now, if you're bipolar, they give you lithium. And it only works if you give a person toxic doses. So now it's considered a drug. It's really just a mineral like calcium or magnesium. But when we eat sugar, carbohydrates, or we're under stress, or you happen to be a genius and your brain is working faster, you run out of lithium faster. So all of the great geniuses of history always had basically bipolar symptoms or obsessive compulsive symptoms or alcoholics and drug addicts because their brain would become depleted using their genius. And when we are in love, we use up more minerals than our food provides. So like when people get married, they call it the first year of marriage, the average weight gain for women is 9 or 11 pounds. And I just see it with women. What happened is that whole expectation, positive thinking, falling in love. The world is beautiful. The world is great. Here's this amazing man and she's in love and he's in love with her. And what happens, it depletes your body of these nutrients. We have to supplement because our food today is deficient in these extra minerals. So one of those minerals, which is under the radar, is lithium. Everybody needs lithium, but not lithium carbonate, which is what doctors prescribe. Now, some people what we need is lithium orotate, which is a different form of lithium that has no side effects, no danger, and no need for high doses. Just a little bit of lithium orotate from 10 to 20 milligrams a day. And if you're super genius or you're depressed, one or the other, they go hand in hand, then go with 15 in the morning, 15 in the evening. That's a tiny, tiny bit. Several women here at this conference, they're teaching positive thinking, and yet they're on antidepressants. In Utah, in the United States, you probably didn't know this, the Mormon religion is a beautiful religion. They think really positive, and they're doing all the right things because one of the most important things for women and well-being is social interactions. So they're very social. They're very family-oriented. There's a lot of support. You know, they cook for each other. They help each other. And yet 1 out of 3 people in Utah, 1 out of 3 women is on an antidepressant. What is going on? But practicing positive thinking actually depletes your brain of lithium. And now you don't have the actual raw material to make the serotonin, so it doesn't work, and so you go on an antidepressant. Once you go on an antidepressant, the reason it's a drug is it has side effects. And one of the side effects of an antidepressant for everyone who takes it is your cortisol levels double. So now you're more stressed. And elevated cortisol, as we talked in the beginning, stress interferes with everything in a relationship. If you're stressed, you just don't have the energy or the ability to see how beautiful and wonderful your partner is. And so what happens is when you're always trying to be positive, if you don't have the actual nutrition that makes you feel, that is the foundation of those brain chemicals, those positive brain chemicals, then you can't make it. So that you take an antidepressant, not only does it raise your stress levels so your body starts degenerating faster, but it changes your brain and it downregulates what's called serotonin receptor sites. So now your ability to be happy in the future over time gradually diminishes more and more. Taking super minerals, which I talk about as other minerals bonded to uric acid, it will cross the blood barrier, raise these receptor sites, and suddenly your brain functions in a way that can support your positive thinking.
How do you view fame?
I view fame as like a means to an end.
And the end is to be able to climb my whole life without having to work. And fame is like a very useful way to do that.
How do you view media and sponsors?
I don't know, I mean, yeah, media and sponsors are all just like part of the whole game. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love being able to go climbing all the time, and sponsorship and media and like, you know, making films and writing books and all those kinds of things all just sort of tie into like enabling this lifestyle. And to be able to share the lifestyle with people, which has never been like my goal, but it is nice to be able to like inspire other people and to like, I mean, throughout my life, I've gotten a lot of inspiration from like seeing climbing films and like reading people's books and like reading climbing magazines, and like, you know, I've taken a lot from the climbing community, and that's like really inspired me to like go out and push myself. And so it's nice to be able to contribute to that whole culture a little bit.
How did living out of a van come about?
No, I mean, living out of a van is pretty common for climbers, but basically it's just because seasons change and you want to move. So it makes sense to be in your car.
You've kind of outfitted it a little bit
yeah,
from
well, so
the early days.
I've done 3 different builds inside my van. The original,
3 different builds?
Well, yeah, 3 different
Okay.
interiors. Like the first one, like an uncle and I built in like an afternoon. It's like pretty scrappy. And then the second one I had a friend build, and it was like quite a bit nicer. And then the most recent one I had another like retired engineer friend build, and it's like really nice. But
So I know you dated a girl in New York for a while that was actually lived a normal lifestyle. And
yeah. But then it's like kind of like, you know, it's like, it's something different. It's all adventurous. You're like, oh, you know. But also, I mean, the thing about the van is like the van might not be that sweet, but the fact that you're parking it in the most beautiful places on earth, I mean, that's the sweet part.
Right.
Like the thing that you get to do whatever you love most, that you're like having cool adventures every day. I mean, like where you're sleeping is like not really that important compared to like what you're doing with the rest of your day. And, you know, by living in the van, I'm able to like stay in Yosemite for months at a time. And that's like pretty awesome. And I think even chicks can appreciate that being in Yosemite is better than like having a nice apartment like in the city.
how much do you think being in a relationship interferes with your climbing?
Relationship stuff is tough. I don't know.
What do you, and you've been open about this before, what do you live off of annually now? And when you were living off the, well, you know, there was a point where you were living off very little, and probably more now, but.
Yeah, well, so no, it's been published that I was living off like $1,000 a month or less or something. I mean, when I first started traveling, it was probably less than that because it was just food and gas, and I was like shopping at like Walmart and like terrible places, you know, just buying like the cheapest pasta. It's like, oh, 68 cents for dinner? That's perfect. You know, and now obviously I spend a lot more on food.
When you did not have, or when you had very little money, what did that teach you about, you know, savings and all of that?
No, I mean, the thing is, I've always lived the same way. Like, I only buy things if I need them, and I still just like don't spend money frivolously. I don't have any things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But the difference then versus now is you're able to have money to sort of plan for.
Yeah. Now it's awesome to be able to like save money, and also I have a foundation now, and so I've been giving probably 1/3 of my income to charity, like environmental nonprofits and stuff, which is pretty sweet to be able to like try to do something positive like that. But
which is pretty substantial too, because, I mean, you know, you do well, but I mean 1/3 of, you know, it's easier for
but my living expenses,
to give 1/3 of their savings.
Yeah, but my living expenses are still super low, and I mean, I'm saving enough that like I feel comfortable with like being okay, and I mean, I feel like that's the appropriate level.